Welcome to another podcast from Cy Green. In this episode, we break down the freshest research, hot off the press. Stay tuned and let's dive in. Oh, and before we start, hit subscribe and drop a comment to keep the green vibes growing.
Let's talk about Nikola Tesla. You've probably heard the name, right? He's pretty much synonymous with genius, with electricity, with the future. But his story, it's also this incredible paradox. Honestly, it's one of the most brilliant and at the same time tragic stories in the entire history of science. And we're going to start his story at the very end. Picture this. It's 1943. An 86-year-old man is found dead in his hotel room in New York City. He's lived there for years. He's completely penniless, pretty much just surviving on milk and crackers. His final years were spent more obsessed with the city's pigeons than with people. It was just a quiet, lonely end for a man whose mind was one of the loudest and brightest the world has ever known. And that's the paradox, the part that's so hard to wrap your head around. The man who died alone and broke in that hotel room, he's the very reason our modern world works the way it does. The electricity powering your home right now, the AC system that makes it possible, that was Tesla. That incredible motor at the heart of modern electric cars, yep, that was Tesla too. So this is the big question, right? This is the mystery we're going to try and unravel. How does a person whose brain literally reshaped the planet end up so completely isolated and broke? To figure that out, we have to go back to the beginning. To really understand the man, we first have to understand his mind. A mind that was forged in this incredible mix of trauma and pure, unadulterated brilliance. You know, the story of his birth sounds like something out of a myth. Seriously. He was born at the stroke of midnight, right in the middle of a crazy electrical storm. The midwife was terrified, saw it as a bad omen, called him a child of darkness. But his mother, she saw something else. She said no, he will be a child of light. I mean, talk about foreshadowing.
But his unique mind was also shaped by this deep, deep tragedy. When he was just 5 years old, he watched his older brother die in a riding accident. It was a trauma that haunted him for his entire life. And right after that, he started having these intense, blinding flashes of light, these vivid hallucinations. But somehow, he learned to channel them. They sparked this unbelievable ability to visualize inventions. He could literally build, test, and perfect incredibly complex machines entirely in his head, no blueprints needed. But that genius was always tangled up with the self-destructive side. In college, he developed a gambling addiction and lost everything. His tuition, his scholarship. It was a pattern that would unfortunately repeat itself.
So eventually, Tesla makes his way to America. He gets there with literally 4 cents in his pocket. But he's carrying an idea that's about to put him on a collision course with the most famous inventor on the planet, Thomas Edison. So what was this revolutionary idea? It was something called alternating current, or AC. Now, Edison's system, direct current, or DC, was simple. It flowed in one direction, kind of like water through a hose. But Tesla's AC was different. It reversed its direction, back and forth, over and over. And that tiny difference meant you could ramp up the voltage, send it hundreds of miles with almost no power loss, and then step it back down to be used safely. It was, no exaggeration, a total game changer. And this difference set up the battlefield for a huge technological war. Look, Edison's DC system was amazing for its time, but it was just so limited. It was so inefficient that you literally needed a power plant every couple of miles. It was good enough to light up a city block, maybe. But Tesla's AC system? It could power an entire country. It wasn't just a better idea, it was a completely different vision for the future.
Now, Edison, a brilliant inventor, but also a really shrewd businessman, saw this and knew his DC empire was in deep trouble. So he launched one of the nastiest smear campaigns in history. He wanted to convince everyone that AC was deadly. He started publicly electrocuting stray dogs and cats, even a horse, just to scare people. The whole thing culminated in this just horrific spectacle, the filmed electrocution of Topsy, a circus elephant. And behind the scenes, Edison secretly funded the invention of the first electric chair, making absolutely sure it used his rival's alternating current, just to link AC with death in everyone's mind.
But the truth eventually won out. In 1893, Tesla and his business partner George Westinghouse won the contract to power the Chicago World's Fair.
It was a massive turning point. For the first time, millions of people saw an entire city of light, glowing safely and brilliantly with AC power. 27 million people saw the future, and they were sold. The war of currents was over. Tesla had won. So this victory should have made Tesla an incredibly rich man. His royalty contract with Westinghouse was worth, in today's money, over $300 million. He should have been set for life.
But the war with Edison had almost bankrupted Westinghouse, and when his partner came to him explaining that he was on the brink of collapse, Tesla did something unbelievable. He didn't ask for more time, he didn't renegotiate, he just took out the contract, the piece of paper that guaranteed his fortune, and tore it up. He said Westinghouse was the man who had believed in him when no one else would. It was an incredible act of loyalty that saved his friend, but it completely sealed his own financial doom.
So free from the burden of becoming a billionaire, this sacrifice allowed Tesla to chase after his biggest, his most ambitious, his wildest dream. A dream that was maybe just a little too far ahead of its time. With some funding from the famous financier J.P. Morgan, Tesla started building something called Wardenclyffe Tower. Now, this was not just about sending telegrams without wires. Tesla's vision was cosmic. He believed he could tap into the Earth's natural electrical field and broadcast power wirelessly to the entire planet. Think about that. Free, unlimited energy for everyone, everywhere. It was the internet, GPS, and a wireless power grid all rolled into one beautiful, crazy tower. But that beautiful dream crashed hard into a brutal reality. The tower was never even finished. For years, it just stood there, this skeleton of a forgotten utopia, before it was eventually demolished and sold for scrap to pay off some of Tesla's debts.
So what on earth happened? Well, it was basically a perfect storm of failure. First, Tesla's rival, Marconi, managed to send the first radio signal across the Atlantic, and he did it using a bunch of Tesla's own patents. All of a sudden, simple radio seemed way more profitable than Tesla's grand vision. Second, his big investor, J.P. Morgan, got nervous. His famous question was, if anyone can draw power, where do we put the meter? He couldn't see how to make money off of free energy, so he pulled all his funding. And third, without Morgan's support, nobody else would touch the project. Tesla was left completely broke.
So after losing everything, his dream, his fortune, how are we supposed to remember this man? The guy who gave the world so much and ended up with so little. You know, when you boil it all down, it really comes back to this fundamental contrast. Guys like Edison were capitalists. They were brilliant, no doubt, but they were focused on building profitable empires from inventions you could sell. Tesla was a visionary. He was driven to push science forward for the good of all humanity, not for his own bank account. He literally gave away a fortune and died penniless, but his head was still full of ideas for a future he'd never get to see. And yet, here's the amazing part. Despite dying broke, his legacy is absolutely priceless. Our entire planet runs on his AC system. His motor is the quiet workhorse inside countless things we use every single day. His patents laid the groundwork for radio, for remote controls, for pretty much all wireless tech. He even built the first major renewable energy plant at Niagara Falls. So yeah, he may have been a terrible businessman, but as an inventor, his success was on a planetary scale. Which leaves us with one final big question to think about. Tesla had this incredible vision for the future, but he just didn't have the practical, business-minded approach to make it happen in his own lifetime. His rivals, they had the practical means, but maybe not the same breathtaking scope of imagination. And his life really forces you to ask, what's more important? The brilliant vision that sees a new world, or the practical means to actually build it? It's a question just as complex and as fascinating as the man himself.